Welcome to the Rickynomics Brief. Today we're going to be going through the article, Dating Apps and Productivity Tools, the Same Profit Loop in Different Clothing, brought to you by the Institute of the Americas for Strategic Business Intelligence. I'm your host, Rick Alonzo, also known as Rickynomics. Disclaimer. This is an unclassified brief for educational purposes only. This episode discusses consumer technology, subscription models, and user behavior. It is not relationship advice, not financial advice, investment advice, or a recommendation to use or avoid any specific app. The purpose is to explain how some digital products turn discomfort into recurring revenue, and how users can make better decisions before paying for relief. This episode is adapted from the Institute of America's article, Dating Apps and Productivity Tools, the Same Profit Loop in Different Clothing. Bluff, or executive summary. Dating apps and productivity tools look like different businesses, but many of them rely on the same profit loop. They create a habit, keep the user inside the system, then sell relief from the pressure the user feels there. Dating apps sell relief from uncertainty. Productivity tools sell relief from the overwhelm. The problem is not that every app is bad or every paid feature is useless. The problem is that users often pay before they understand what the problem they're actually solving. The better approach is simple. Build the method first, test it with a basic tool, and only pay when the upgrade removes a clear constraint. So, welcome to the Rickynomics Brief, and I am your host, analyst, and advisor, Rickynomics, also known Rick Alonzo. Today's brief looks at two products that seem unrelated, dating apps and productivity tools. One promises connection, the other promises control. A dating app tells users that someone better may be one swipe away. A productivity tool tells the user that life may finally feel organized if the system is built the right way. The emotions are different, but the business logic often looks the same. The product brings the user in with a free or low-cost version. The user builds a habit around it. Then the system creates pressure at the exact point where the user feels exposed. On dating apps, that pressure is usually uncertainty. The user wonders if the profile is being seen, if the algorithm is limiting exposure, or if better access would change the results. With productivity tools, the pressure is different. The user feels behind, scattered, or unable to keep up. The tools offer a cleaner space and a sense that order is possible. In both cases, the product sells relief. That does not mean that the tools are worthless. Some people get real value from them. The issue is whether the user is paying to solve a real problem or paying to feel less anxious in the moment. That is the difference this episode is about. A useful purchase removes a constraint. A weak purchase only reduces discomfort for a short time. The shared profit loop. The loop starts with habit. A dating app wants the user to keep checking. The user opens the app, swipes, waits, checks again, and then returns for a small sign of attention. A productivity tool works in a similar way. The user adds tasks, organizes notes, changes views, builds boards, and keeps returning to the system because it feels like progress. At first, this can be useful. A dating app gives structure to the search for connection. A productivity tool gives structure to the work that feels scattered. But structure can also become a trap. Swiping can feel like pursuing a relationship even when the user is mainly staying inside the platform. Rearranging tasks can feel like working, even when the important work is not moved. building a cleaner system can feel like control, even when the real decisions remain unclear. This is where the platform gains leverage. The user now has a habit, the product now has the user's attention, and then the friction appears. The dating app user feels unseen, the productivity tool user feels overloaded. The paid tier appears like it's the only way out. The app doesn't need to invent the discomfort may already be there. The app only needs to organize it and offer a paid path that feels like relief. That is the operating model. Dating apps and uncertainty. Dating apps show the model clearly because there is a tension inside the business. The user wants a good match, and if that match leads to a serious relationship, the user may leave the app. That's great for the user, but it's not great for the platform. This does not mean that the company is trying to make users fail. It just means that the business model rewards continued use. The platform benefits when the user keeps returning, keeps checking, keeps wondering whether the next action will produce a better result. And that's what uncertainty is valuable. A user who receives few matches usually does not know why. It could be the profile, it could be the timing, the location, or it could be the competition. It could be the way the platform ranks people. It could also be simple mismatch. The app can sell an answer that feels easier to accept. Maybe the problem is visibility. That is where paid features become attractive. The user can pay to be seen more, to filter more, or to move ahead of the line. Sometimes that may help, but the problem is not that paid visibility never has value. The problem is that the purchase often happens while the user is frustrated and uncertain. And that matters. The user may think that they're buying a better outcome. In reality, they may be buying a temporary relief from feeling invisible. Dating apps monetize the space between hope and uncertainty. Productivity tools and overwhelm. Productivity tools work through a different pressure point. The user is not looking for romantic attention. The user is looking for control. Modern work creates real pressure, and there are too many tasks and too many messages and files, meetings, and loose ends. A clean productivity app can feel like the solution the moment it opens, and that feeling is powerful. The user creates a workspace, and the tasks look organized. The projects have names, the notes have folders, and for a moment, the work feels manageable. Sometimes the tools help, but often the tool is not solving the real issue. It's giving the user a better looking version of the same disorder. A tool can store information. It can help user find things faster and automate a repeated step. It can make the teamwork easier to see, but it cannot decide what matters, can't protect the time, can't force a weekly review, can't make a team clarify who owns the next step. That is where people confuse software with method. A clean tool can make confusion look professional. A dashboard can make a delay look organized. Large note system can feel like knowledge even when the user never returns to the notes, when a decision has to be made. Productivity tools often sell the feeling that work is finally under control, but control does not come from the tool itself. Control comes from the method. The real failure. The most common failure is not choosing the wrong app. The real failure is paying before defining the job. Before paying for a productivity tool, the user should be able to explain what the tool is supposed to do in plain language. Maybe it's supposed to help capture tasks. Maybe it's supposed to help track projects, or it's supposed to help the team see who owns the work. The answer does not need to be complicated, it just needs to be clear. The user cannot explain the job. The purchase is premature. The same applies to dating apps. If a user pays for an upgrade, the question should be, what problem is this solving? More exposure may be useful, better filters may be useful, but paying because the app has made the user feel unseen is not the same as paying for a defined constraint. That is the core discipline. Do not pay because the product created the pressure. Pay because the upgrade solves a problem you can name. Task tools. Task apps are useful when they help the user act. They fail when they become a place to store guilt. A long task list can feel responsible, but if the user never reviews it and never works from it, the list is not helping. It's just collecting pressure. Before paying for a better task app, the user should test one thing. Can I review this list and make decisions from it? If the answer is no, the issue is not the app. The issue is the review discipline, priority, or time. The paid task manager should not improve a working habit. It should not be used to avoid building one. Note tools. Note apps have the same problem. People often collect notes because collecting feels productive. But a note system only has value if the user can return to the information and use it. If the notes do not help the user think, write, decide, or act, the system is not really a knowledge system, it is just storage. That does not make note apps useless. It means the workflow matters more than the app. Capture consistently. Review what matters. Retrieve information when it's needed. Connect the notes to the decisions or to the output. Once that behavior exists, better software may help. Without that behavior, the user is just paying for a larger archive. Project boards. So let's talk about project boards. They can help see the work clearly. They can also make confusion look organized. A board may look clean and the columns may be neat and the cards may be color-coded, but if nobody knows who owns the next task or step, the tool's not solving the problem. The board is only useful when it supports decisions. What's moving, what's blocked, who owns the next step or decision, action, what needs to stop. A simple board with clear owners and regular review will often beat a more expensive system with weak discipline. The upgrade should come after the team knows how it works. If the team cannot manage the work in a simple system, paid system will not fix the team. It would only display the problem with a better design. Scheduling and automation. Scheduling tools can reduce friction. They can make it easier to book meetings and avoid back and forth messages. That is useful, but it is limited. A scheduling tool cannot decide what deserves time. If the user does not protect the calendar, the tool cannot create priorities on its own. Automation has the same limit. Automation works when the process is already clear. It fails when the process is confused. A stable workflow can be automated. An unclear workflow becomes a faster mess when automation spreads it. The better move is to automate one repeated handoff that wastes time. Test it, measure whether it helps, expand only after the process holds. But do not automate the confusion. Procurement discipline, or picking the right apps. The defense is not cynicism. The defense is buying discipline. Before paying for a tool to find the job. Use plain language. Ask what the tool is supposed to do in the real workflow. Then test the workflow with the freer basic option for 7 to 14 days. During that test, do the real behavior. Review the list, use the calendar, retrieve the note, run the project, check in, complete the handoff manually before automating it. After that, identify the failure. Did the system fail because the tool lacked a feature, or did it fail because the users did not review, decide, schedule, delegate, or execute? That distinction protects money and attention. If the tool is the constraint, paying may make sense. If the behavior is the constraint, the subscription is not going to solve it. So the rule is kind of simple. Pay for a bottleneck. Do not pay for a mood. Optionality. Users should also protect their ability to leave these apps. A workflow should not become trapped inside one vendor system. If the method depends entirely on one paid tool, the vendor gains leverage. Prices can change, limits can change, and features can move behind higher tiers. The better approach is to build the model first and let the tool support it. Use the tools that allow the export, keep the backups, avoid building a core workflow that collapses if one subscription changes. That does not mean avoid paid tools. It means keeping the tool in its proper place. The tool should not serve the method. The method should not become captive to the tool. Analyst comment. The shared misreading is to treat dating apps and productivity tools as separate problems. The stronger assessment is that both show how subscription products can turn discomfort into revenue. Dating apps convert uncertainty into paid visibility, and productivity tools convert overwhelm into paid control. The user may receive value, but only if the purchase removes a real constraint. The mistake is not paying for the tools. The mistake is paying for the method before the method exists. A disciplined user defines the job, tests the workflow, identifies the failure, and pays only when the feature solves a measurable problem. And without that discipline, the user becomes a reoccurring revenue inside a system that sells confidence without necessarily improving results. Three things close. Condition. Dating apps and productivity tools often monetize discomfort by selling visibility, control, or relief. Next action. Define the job before paying. Test the workflow with a simple tool for 7 to 14 days. Pay only if the upgrade removes a main constraints. Owner. User, team leader, business owner, or buyer responsible for protecting money, attention, and execution discipline. In closing, this has been the Rickynomics Brief, brought to you by the Institute for the Americas for Strategic Business Intelligence. I'm Rick Alonzo. The issue is not whether these products are good or bad. The issue is whether the user understands what's being sold. Sometimes the app sells a useful feature. Sometimes it sells relief. The difference matters. Define the job, build the method, keep substitutes, pay for one clear constraint. Pray that peace finds you, and thank you so much for tuning in.